PMS, pregnancy, menopause. Being a woman is a lot. Ollie supports you and yours with expert solutions for every age and life stage. They just launched 2 new products exclusively at Walmart. Period Hero combats bloat, mood swings, and more during PMS. And Balance Perimeno to support hormonal balance, mood, and metabolism during perimenopause. Grab yours at ollie.com.
Ollie!
These statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
This is the Janine Pirro Show. Now, here's Judge Janine Pirro.
Welcome back to the Judge Janine Tunnel to Towers Foundation Show. Joining us now is a professor. He is an author. He is one of the intellects of the legal intellects in this nation, Professor Alan Dershowitz. Please join me in welcoming him to the Judge Janine Tunnel to Towers Foundation Show. And for those of you who don't know him, he was a law professor at Harvard. Get this, folks. Most people can't even get into the place. He was a law professor there for 50 years. Over 50 years, and he's written several books, and he's the host of his own podcast, The Dersh Show. So, Professor Dershowitz, let's talk about Columbia University and the lunacy that's going on there.
Well, it's worse than lunacy. It's criminal. Somebody sent me a newspaper clipping from 1933, which talked about 200 German students, Nazi students, wearing swastikas, going into the dining room and surrounding a table with Jewish students and not allowing them to go to class. And I said to myself, that's exactly what's happening at Columbia. I'm not comparing what's happening at Columbia to what happened to the Nazis in 1940 with crematorium and gas chambers, but I am comparing what happened at Columbia to what happened at Heidelberg University, Berlin, Munich University in 1933, 34, 35 that led up to the Holocaust. It is almost identical. Professors, administrators, students, all harassing Jewish students, treating them like second-class citizens, blocking them from going to classes. We're seeing a repetition of what happened in Germany in the 1930s, and it cannot be tolerated. Columbia has to put an end to it. These people have to be prosecuted. They have to be unmasked. They have to be named. You know, you talk of doxing. No doxing going on. We want to know the names of these people so that no decent company will ever hire them. That's not doxing. That's common sense.
Well, you know, the doxing is, I mean, it's just absurd. It's just a name that they attribute some kind of negativity to as though there's a consequence. But I want to go back for a second. We've got right now Columbia University. This is year 2 of this. It's not as if we hadn't seen this last year. And the only thing that happened was that everybody got pretty much let loose by Alvin Bragg, the DA, assuming there even were criminal charges. So you can take over a building, you can unlawfully imprison, kidnap, as far as I'm concerned, commit criminal mischief, trespass, intimidate, menace, and there is no consequence. So can you blame them for not doing it over and over again? At some point, aren't we so accommodating to criminals that we're inviting them to reoffend?
No question. And Columbia University has to bear some responsibility for it. Certainly civil responsibility, maybe even criminal responsibility. When you encourage people to commit crimes by your inaction, you're at least morally responsible. And we have no doubt that there are professors there. There are professors. Joseph Massad is one of them. He is chairman of the Middle East Studies Department. He encouraged this kind of thing. He praised Hamas for what they did on October 7th. He refused to call on a Jewish student, saying, unless you admit you're a war criminal, you can't speak. This is awful stuff that's going on. This is neo-Nazism that's going on. And the president of Columbia, who I know, her father and I were colleagues at Harvard Law School. She's a decent person, but she's not doing the right thing.
Why isn't
she? Really push very hard.
She's smart.
Yeah, she's very smart. You probably know her from television.
Of course.
I knew her through her father. A decent person, but, you know, there's so much pressure. The faculty today is so radical, so left-wing. The bureaucrats are so left-wing. They won't accept anything except total victory, and especially now that Trump's on the other side, they say, oh my God, we have the perfect enemy. We're standing up for academic freedom against Donald Trump. And they're getting support from students, from alumni, from donors, from faculty. And that's why your show is so important. The general public has to say, we're not standing for this. Columbia University is part of New York City, and New York City has an obligation to make it safe for every single student, not just students of a particular ethnicity.
Well, and they are rallying for the support of Mahmoud Khalil, the accused ringleader of the pro-Palestine protests last year. And Khalil was arrested last month, obviously, by Homeland Security, which is part of Immigrations and Customs, telling him that they were revoking his green card and student visa. But now the posters have renamed Butler Library Basel al-Araj Popular University a liberation zone. I mean, they're climbing on desks, chanting Free Palestine. What the hell does Palestine have to do with this?
Well, first of all, none of these people are pro-Palestine. Since October 7th, there hasn't been a single demonstration calling for a two-state solution, calling for a Palestinian state. These people don't care about Palestine. They don't care about Palestinians. All they care about is they're anti-American, they're anti-Christian, they're anti-Semitic, they're anti-Zionist, they're anti-Israel. They're anti. They're not pro-anything. No Palestinian has ever benefited from any of these demonstrations. I challenge anybody to find a single sign calling for a Palestinian state alongside of Israel. You won't find a single sign. This is all anti, not at all pro, and nobody should call it pro-Palestine, because people who really care about the Palestinians have no interest in these demonstrations. They're not helping the people of Gaza. They're not helping the people of the West Bank. Not helping the people of Lebanon. They're not helping anybody. They're just attacking. They're trying to bring down America. Let's understand the ultimate goal of this: to bring down America. That's the goal, to bring down Western democracies. That's their goal. And they say it. If you look at and listen to what they say carefully, it's all anti-American, anti-Christian, anti-Semitic. When you start being anti-Semitic, your next step is to be anti-Christian. Look at what they're saying. They're saying there were never any Jews in Jerusalem. If there were never any Jews in Jerusalem, there was never any Jesus. There was never any temple. There were never any money lenders. There's no Vatican. Why are they electing a pope? There was never any Jesus. It's all fake. They're attacking Christianity. They're attacking Judaism. They're attacking Western civilization.
This National Foster Care Month, Marine Toys for Tots is providing hope to children who need it most. Staff Sergeant James Caldwell, who grew up in foster care himself, shares that while handing out gifts at a Toys for Tots distribution event, a little girl looked up at him, reached into her bag, pulled out a stuffed animal and said, "Someone needs to make sure you get a toy too." That simple gesture embodies the heart of Marine Toys for Tots, ensuring every child, including those in foster care, experiences the kindness that can transform their future. Visit toysfortots.org today.
Americans love using their credit cards, the most secure and hassle-free way to pay. But D.C. politicians want to change that with the Durbin-Marshall credit card bill. This bill lets corporate megastores pick how your credit card is processed, allowing them to use untested payment networks that jeopardize your data security and rewards. Corporate megastores will make more money, and you pay the price. Tell Congress to guard your card, because Americans lose when politicians choose. Learn more at guardyourcard.com.
Yeah, they are looking to destroy Western civilization. There's also another piece to this, Professor Dershowitz, and that is, when they talk about funding for research, Harvard, Columbia, Harvard in particular, they've got an endowment. It's sure. Not, if they want the advantages and the ability to be an institution that is allowed, government benefits, well, then they've got to make sure that they follow the requirements. And the truth is, that's use right. Your endowments for that. Be a private institution. You don't need government money for that if you're going to allow this kind of thing to happen.
I'll give you a perfect example of that. Somebody from Harvard the other day said, "Oh, my God, you're cutting off our funding. That means we have to euthanize all the animals that we use for experimentation. Rabbits. You know how much it costs to feed a rabbit? 3 cents a day. They have an endowment of $53 billion. Let them dip into the endowment to save the lives of these rats and these rabbits and stop complaining." Now, ultimately, I think where we're going to move is toward ending funding of universities and requiring individual researchers and labs to make applications to the National Institutes of Health. And so the money doesn't come through the universities. It goes directly to the researchers. That makes the most sense so that the money can't be diverted to political, partisan, and ideological causes.
Yep, I agree. And you know what? It's about time that we separated the two, because the truth is that there are young students and young people who are poor, can't afford college, and yet we're giving money to the colleges and universities that have billions already. None of it makes sense to me. And then you get a president who wants to forgive student loans in violation of the orders of the Supreme Court.
No, you can't do that, because that just benefits the slackers, the people who didn't pay the loans, and it disadvantages the people who were responsible and paid the loans back. So, no, I think none of that makes any sense. And, last night I spoke to the Republican women of New York. What a bunch of great people they were. And they were standing up for American values, and they were brilliant. And I was so thrilled to be honored from them. I'm not a Republican. I'm a former Democrat. And as I said to them, it's a two-step process. First, get people like me out of the Democratic Party. You've succeeded with me. Now get the rest of us out of the Democratic Party. Anybody who's decent doesn't belong in a party headed by Chuck Schumer and Liz Warren and Bernie Sanders. We don't belong there. And then we'll fight about whether we become independents or Republicans. That's a two-step process. But right now, it's important to make sure the Democratic Party understands that it doesn't represent what's decent in America these days.
Yep, absolutely. And I think that Professor Dershowitz, as we watch what is happening unfold at Columbia, that if there isn't anything determinative or specific in terms of actual arrests and prosecutions, we can expect that this is going to continue.
It's going to get worse. It's going to get worse. It's going to get worse because, remember, if you want to predict what a country will look like in 20 years, you look at its college students, because in 20 years they'll be the leaders. And if these thugs become the leaders of America, if they become members of Congress and editorial board of newspapers and the investment bankers, we're in for real trouble. So we have to change the trajectory of what's going on at colleges. And let's start at Columbia and Barnard. First, I would abolish Barnard. Barnard doesn't serve any purpose at all. It really doesn't have classes. What it does, it used to be a good school. It used to be a good school. Now it's just these programs, these race-oriented, sex-oriented, regionally-oriented programs. Barnard serves no important function. It's basically just a dormitory. So I would not only cut off funding of Barnard, all tax exemptions to Barnard, and if I was Columbia, I would do to Barnard what Harvard did to Radcliffe, shut it down. Radcliffe is now a little institute with a house somewhere down the street. Barnard doesn't deserve to be a separate college. It serves no important function, and it's the most radical part of Columbia University.
Yep. Isn't that interesting? Professor Dershowitz, we always love having you on the show. We appreciate it. And what book are you working on a book right now?
I am. I'm working on a book called Defund or Defend, Who Will Win Trump's War Against the Elite Ivy League Schools. I'm working on that. I just published a book called The Preventive State. This is my sixth book in 18 months. I'm going nuts. I'm so angry at the world that all I can do is write. You know what,
Professor Alan Dershowitz?
Yeah.
I love your passion. Your anger spurs you on to continue to fight for justice, and that's what we need in this country. We don't need people who are mealy-mouthed, who can see, both sides. And I mean, I get seeing both sides. I really do. But, take a side. Once you see them, take a side and do something about it. That's why we love you, Professor Alan Dershowitz. Give him hell.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Be well.
Take care.
Keep doing good things.
Bye-bye.
Hello, folks. Larry Kudlow here. Pay attention, because China is leading the largest anti-American alliance since World War II. One that's already dumped U.S. bonds, grabbed 43 million acres of our farmland, and is plotting to dethrone the dollar. That's why IRA and 401k savers are protecting their savings with gold. Please go to freegoldguide.com/Kudlow or just call 800-621-3908 for your free gold guide on how to protect your wealth with gold 100% tax-free.